When last we saw CNN's Kyung La, she was chasing Pennsylvania state lawmakers, not in Pennsylvania, but in Phoenix, Arizona. They were visiting the bogus ballot review going on there, apparently intent on trying something similar back home. In a moment, we'll be joined by Pennsylvania's lieutenant governor. But first, a new development in Arizona, fresh evidence that what Democrats and even some Republicans are calling a sham is precisely that. It comes from Arizona's Secretary of State, whose office has been documenting irregularities in the operation. Once again, CNN's Kyung La.
It's been a mystery from the start why the so-called audit workers all wear color-coded T-shirts. But two are in pink shirts, the nonpartisan observers, representing the Arizona Secretary of State's office, told by the company leading the audit that they need to wear them. Now, Secretary of State Katie Hobbs thinks she's figured it out.
What we've noticed is that they are using these shirts to label our observers as pinko commies, that the shirt made him look like a transgender, which I don't even know what that means.
So it's a joke?
I think this whole thing is a joke.
The pink shirts are one of the more eye-popping details in a summary report from Hobbs's office, detailing a slew of problems with his ballot review of Maricopa County's 2020 ballots. Observers noted more than a dozen serious problems, from an unattended and open security gate, errors with the software update used to examine ballots, so problematic they ditched it and went back to the old software, and a cell phone brought to the floor. Observers say that cell phone was carried by one of the leaders of the so-called audit, despite rules prohibiting them, and security using what appears to be an anti-spy detector daily on the Coliseum floor. And then there's this.
There were two instances where black pens were again on the counting floor.
Jen Fifield is an Arizona Republic reporter. Pen color is a big deal because blue and black pens can be used to alter ballots during an audit. She pointed it out weeks ago to the Cyber Ninjas, the hired contractor conducting the ballot exercise for the Arizona Senate.
He went and checked. He came back to me and said, you know what, we're going to remove the blue pens. We're going to use green pens instead.
So you noticed the problem before Cyber Ninjas did?
I did.
Does this strike you, as a reporter covering this, like a big deal?
It strikes me as showing that they may not have experience doing election audits before.
The Cyber Ninjas are a little-known tech company hired out of Florida for the so-called audit, a third review run by the Republican-controlled Arizona Senate, despite two previous audits conducted by Maricopa County. In response, audit spokesman Ken Bennett tells CNN that he, quote, laughed out loud when he read Hobbs's report, calling it, quote, untrue to inconsequential to a bunch of BS. He also called the observers biased, saying no one picked on them for the pink shirts. But Hobbs says her report seeks to rebut what she expects will be the final report from the Cyber Ninjas and Arizona Senate Republicans, the next chapter of the big lie.
I saw Senate President Karen Fann say to you last week that we're setting the gold standard here in Arizona.
This will be the basis of a gold standard.
There is nobody involved with any type of audit in any industry who would say that what's going on here is a gold standard. We know the truth about the 2020 election and that the results we certified were an accurate reflection of the will of the voters, and this process is not.
And Kyung joins us now from Phoenix. There are Republicans in Maricopa County that are trying to fight against the big lie. Some are making the connection to the so-called audit and the former president's, believing he'll be reinstated in August.
Yeah, we're actually hearing from them more and more. And we just saw this tweet from Maricopa County Supervisor Bill Gates. He's been really one of the more active and vocal Republicans here in the county, saying, look, this is a lie. And what he tweeted was that the audit is feeding into that conspiracy theory for his desired, quote unquote, reinstatement. Now, this is the important part. He tweets that Republicans must stand up to this madness and defend the rule of law. Silence is becoming complicity. It is something that we keep hearing about, Anderson, in this state. Is it going to be fact or fiction, with some Republicans choosing fact and others continuing to follow this audit? Yeah. Anderson.
Kyung La, I appreciate it. Joining us now is John Fetterman, Pennsylvania's Lieutenant Governor, Democratic candidate for the U.S. Senate. Lieutenant Governor Fetterman, thanks for being with us. There are obviously major problems what's going on in Arizona, not only from an operational perspective, according to state representatives, but it's also based on the big lie that the election was fraudulent and that there was widespread voter fraud, which we know there was not. So what goes through your mind when you see Pennsylvania Republicans visiting in Maricopa County and, I guess, wanting to do the same thing in your state?
Well, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that the three colleagues are very much less tethered to reality than even the other Republicans colleagues in the Senate. These are fringe among more of a fringe movement. So I'm not surprised, and I don't expect it to go anywhere. But really, the prime directive for Republicans at this point is simping for the former president, because that waters the tree of liberty for the Republican Party now.
The state senator, Pennsylvania State Senator Doug Mastriano, who was one of the three Pennsylvania lawmakers who traveled to Arizona, he said, quote, "I'm not about overturning anything. I'm just trying to find out what went right, what went wrong, and how do we have better elections in the future," unquote. You know, he was at January 6th. He said he left before any violence, and he renounced, any violence. But the idea that visiting a privately run, audit that doesn't have to answer anybody. They can announce any results they want, and there's no way anyone can check what they have done. Do you trust that Mastriano isn't about overturning anything?
Well, of course, they would love to. Recall Mastriano and the others put on that snake handling demonstration in the Ramada Ballroom in Gettysburg late in 2020, trying to overturn the election results. I mean, this is what they do. This is all they know, and this is all they have to run on it. And currying the former president's favor is their only play to be electorally viable nowadays in the Republican Party. And that's a tragedy. If you tell the truth in the Republican Party, you lose your elective career in politics. We've seen it with my counterpart in Georgia and across the country. The bottom line is this. No one, including the Republicans themselves, believe there was any fraud. They know better than anybody what the results are. And this is strictly about simping for Donald Trump. So he curries favor and they endorse him. He endorses them, and they ultimately would win in their respective primaries.
You're confident that there's not going to be a Maricopa-style, so-called audit in Pennsylvania?
I am. Yeah, the members that made that trip were fringy, even among the fringies, and I do not believe it would go any further than, again, the train wreck in the Ramada Ballroom in Gettysburg did. It's just all for show, and it's all just to pander to the fringe and the extremes, and it's not going to go anywhere. No one's getting reinstalled as president. It's all just part of this really bad performance art that they just won't let it go, because that's the only thing they have left to run on, because President Biden and the Democratic majorities have led this country out of this pandemic and are getting people back to work and getting people back to their lives pre-pandemic.
Lieutenant Governor Fetterman, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.